Next up, I'd like to welcome Sandra de Moree with her presentation, Making Sense, an online meaning-centered psychological intervention for individuals living with MND.
Hi, my name is Sandra de Moree. I'm a clinical psychologist working with MND patients, and I want to thank the organization for giving me the opportunity to present on our new blended psychological intervention called Making Sense. First, I will address the relevance of discussing meaning and personal needs with patients with MND and their partners. Second, I will give you an impression of the online Making Sense intervention in the context of MND care. And finally, I can share some first results of our ongoing single case study. As a healthcare professional, you never know upfront how the individual patient will respond to MND. Our role is to facilitate and inform the patients and the caregivers to the best of our knowledge, and also to guide a search journey on how to deal with MND in the best suitable way for the particular individual patient who is sitting in front of us. Within the patients and caregivers lie the real answers of what their needs are and what is meaningful to them. And that is what this Making Sense intervention is all about, a search together with the patients for answers that lie within the person themselves, and a search for personal sources of strength and meaning. Being diagnosed with a terminal illness such as MND, as we all know, is shocking and deeply affects one's personal existence and identity. Stress and dysphoria often follow the diagnosis, with some adapting quickly and finding a new emotional balance, while others struggle to come to terms with the diagnosis and continue experiencing high levels of emotional distress, and some even may show symptoms of PTSD. As we observed in our previous study on hope in patients with MND and their partners, reappraisal and finding meaning play a significant role in the process of psychological adjustment. This brings up the question what type of psychological intervention in this context is suited for patients with MND. To date, research on psychological interventions specific for MND is scarce. 10 years ago, I came across Professor William Breitbart's meaning-centered group psychotherapy. This intervention builds on the work of the neurologist Viktor Frankl and is found to be well accepted and effective in patients with advanced cancer. It is a time-limited, manualized psychotherapy focusing on sense of meaning, thereby relieving distress and promoting psychological well-being. This well-researched intervention seems suitable for MND patients, who are, as advanced cancer patients, faced with similar complex issues related to the prospect of progressive physical decline and early death. Rather than focusing on the illness itself and the daily worries about the progressive physical decline, patients are supported and guided in a directive manner to focus on what is meaningful to them by reflecting on their life and gaining sharper focus on what is important to them in the remaining time ahead. While there are similarities with cancer, there are also important differences that led us to adapt, with permission, the content of Breitbart's program. In co-creation with MND patients, we adapted it to the reality and needs of people with MND while retaining the integrity and core elements of the therapy. We used the authorized Dutch version of Breitbart's intervention for cancer patients as our basis. Also, we are aware of the barriers that limit MND patients to access group psychotherapy, such as mobility problems, speech problems, the lack of energy to spend time and effort on visiting the clinic for multiple appointments, and their dependency on caregivers. This prompted us to develop an online version rather than face-to-face. Moreover, group therapy may not always be suited for MND patients, as we learned that most patients do not wish to be confronted with peers who are also severely affected by M&D. We therefore decided to offer the therapy on an individual basis. The program is offered on a user-friendly and secure e-health platform called Mind District. Here is an overview of the therapy that is guided by a psychologist and combines online modules with video consultations. The therapy starts with a face-to-face session, where the stage is set for the therapy and the patient is introduced to the online environment. Patients then start the therapy program from home, which will take them approximately an hour once a week for the duration of 8 till 12 weeks. The program is sequential and opens the next module after the previous one is finished. Modules contain psychoeducational text, images, reflections, quotes, exercises, and homework. Throughout the program and after every module, the psychologist offers an email coaching. The first online module focuses on the historical source, raising awareness regarding their personal life story. The second module focuses on personal meaning and identity, pre- and post-diagnosis. Patients are asked by means of online assignments not only about their personal meaning in life, but also about personal norms and values. And they are asked about significant positive and negative events that contribute to the forming of the person they have become. The next session is a session via video call, focused on connecting the patient's personal history without the illness via identity, the stories on how they have chosen to live their lives and their experiences, to his or her present life with the illness and the future. While the past and the diagnosis are facts that cannot be changed, how one deals with these facts can at least partly be influenced by the patients themselves, with a view on their personal goals and needs. One of the assignments in this session is to share one's essential personal needs related to meaning in life with loved ones and caregivers. The next online module focuses on confrontations with limitations in life, how patients deal with setbacks and misfortune. Patients are helped to find some freedom to choose their attitudes towards such limitations, even in the face of death, by taking control of the things that are controllable and have special meaning. Online module 4 focuses on the active role people have in life. One important element in this session deals with our responsibility to answer the question, what life have we created for ourselves? Patients are asked what their responsibilities are and as well as for whom they are responsible. Any unfinished business or tasks patients may have are also examined. Courage is a second important element in this session that is being addressed. The patient reflects in this session on his or her own sources, which can help them not to give up the courage to live and to continue their life meaningful. The last online module focuses on discussing experiential sources of meaning, such as love, beauty, and humor. While creativity and attitudinal sources of meaning require more of an active involvement in life, experiential sources embody more of passive and even sensory engagement in life. Reflecting on personal experiential sources often highlights how these sources of meaning become particularly important for them since the ALS of PMA diagnosis. The last face-to-face session via video call provides the opportunity to review and to integrate all the personal input. We can conclude which personal life lessons can be helpful in the present and what choices and decisions can be made by the patients in view of the rest of their life. We are currently in the process of testing the acceptability, feasibility, and patient satisfaction of the intervention and document changes in emotional distress over time. Time does not permit me to discuss the methodology in much detail, but in short, we are using a so-called mixed method approach, collecting both qualitative and quantitative data, and for pragmatic and ethical reasons we chose what is considered a good alternative for an RCT, namely a randomized single-case experimental design that requires only a small sample with frequent measurements using the hospital anxiety and depression scale. As a pre- and post measure, participants complete questionnaires on quality of life, personal meaning in life, well-being and personal growth. And at this moment, 4 patients have been included and 3 of them finished the Making Sense treatment. The frequent measurements are still ongoing. And now some first results. Marlies is a woman who values her privacy and tries to hang on to her independency as long as possible. She says, during the Making Sense intervention, it suddenly occurred to me that I am in charge here. I can decide on how and when I want things. I can say to the professional caregiver, I am going to try to put on my socks and see how far I come with it, and then ask them to help me if necessary. And during me trying, I can ask them politely to wait in the next room till I can call them for help. Another participant, Jan, values personal development all through his life as very important, and he realizes in working with the Making Sense that even with PMA, he's still going through a personal development process, maybe even faster one than before, learning about himself and his needs, and he is very much aware of his ability to learn from situations he encounters. The development process has not stopped after the diagnosis. He sensed that focusing on this still continuing process helps him to cope with the illness. And then there is Luke. He completed the Making Sense module with an eye movement device and is on 24 hours intrusive ventilation and care dependency. Luke discovered that he is too busy managing his care team and feels burned out and worried because of it. He doesn't have time to act as he would, and according his advanced stage of ALS, he would like to spend more time on things and people he loves. He is now trying to sort out management tasks and find the time to sit in his garden or in his room for some quality time as a first step towards change. Overall, the preliminary results show that Making Sense appears well received and appreciated by patients with ALS and PMA. The rate they gave is 8. Participants report that online offered help is a solution to mobility problems and offers autonomy and freedom in when they want to work and reflect on meaning in their life. In case of Marlies and Luke, who both experienced substantial physical decline and also extreme life events during completion of the Making Sense modules, the stress levels remained stable and their sense of personal meaning increased. In the case of Jan, the stress level seems to drop slightly over time, despite gradual but steady physical decline. But it's still early for definite conclusions. The measurements are still going on. The feedback of the psychologist after every module was seen as clarifying, confirming and motivating. Every participant discovers his or her own meaning-related need. They gain sharper focus on what is important to them and take ownership of it as far as possible. The intervention was viewed by the participant as a natural addition to the regular M&D care, and they would recommend it to others. Log data showed a wide variety of user behavior, speaking to a spectrum of individual support needs that can be accommodated with this intervention. By means of this presentation, I hope I have shown you the importance of putting the individual patients and their loved ones at the center, and helping them reflect on what is meaningful for them at their stage, literally what makes sense. And if you are interested in our program, feel free to contact me via this email address. And thank you so much for your attention, and enjoy the rest of the Allied Professional Meeting.